Me and Mohbad were in an apartment, and Mohbad was like, he wants to jump from the upstairs because of this labor issue. But we go hold this boy for window. Mohbad don't almost jump. Now him girlfriend just enter room, see Mohbad sit down for window. Because of all these things, bruh, you can't just keep going on that. And these people are just forming. There's nothing happening. Something is happening. Something will make you think, say you won't take your own life. Bruh, it's going to the extreme. Now you go happen, you go the right RIP, and we love them. No, there's no love there. And none of them will speak up. They inside that place. None of them won't look anybody high. Yeah, no, they under anybody. Where?
As the news the fly of the death of Mohbad, people don't they talk saying a different thing I kill him. Some say na ear infection I kill him. Some say na the people way they me go with na kill him. More information say they talk say the guy did depressed that one time he was making an attempt to commit suicide. But the thing we want to hear right now from Dr. Kemi, she they talk am say na heart attack na kill him because of say he did take drugs. So she can come and they tell people, say, especially the young one, that they should abstain from drugs. The thing really pay me, say, a lot of issues they happen with our artists, especially those really into the music industry. And that is why you see, one time, Mali can't come at, can they even they promote, say, make people know they take drugs again. My people, the death of this guy, Mohbad, it pain everybody, because if you listen to his music, the thing is sweet. Now this one I constantly lead us to waiting Kemi don't fair talk before. Say Tinubu they promote illegal things, especially for the NAFDAC. Say a lot of things they happen, fake thing. There was one video I was watching where be say cigarettes in fact another thing at the park inside. She accused NAFDAC of collecting bribe for promoting fake drugs, fake products, especially the one that has to do with skin and other things. So be say it's not good for society. If they accuse Tinubu right now, say why Tinubu not go into all those areas? Why he not suspend all those NAFDAC officials? Why he not suspend all those people? Yet if they go put hand for waiting, it not they important for the now. At least drugs and all this skincare where people they use, where they cost people their lives, that Tinubu should arise and start stopping them now. But no, it's turning deaf ears to it because now this one I can make people they talk, say the cocoa way they affect Nigerians. Tinubu they ignore them. If they go UAE, go they talk about traveling, but not be person way get money now want go Dubai, go enjoy. Not be person way get money now go buy flight tickets. But waiting if they inside house, it never solve them. If they go they solve waiting only Nigerians the year. International bodies not the year. As we they talk, they say the traveling ban way come out. UAE they never post them for their website. CNN no carrying all those our big television people they're not carrying. They say that they like all these journalists where they follow Tinubu. They say that they like to they feed Nigeria with fake news. They say which band they come out. Even Rufai Woto can say make person go first. Mo will not say yes they come out the band. We not see any trace as they talk now. Now go say come out the band now with the year. The UAE, they never post and say they come up band. They never see anybody where go, where do video say it not true they come up band. But yet they come they blast people with fake news. As Tinubu they think say as the tribunal don't endorse and say na be president of Nigeria, everybody go rest. Instead, una no say Atiku Congo Zolo well at right now in the beg Chicago State University make them not release those documents to Nigeria. Say it go spoil everything. That is why Tinubu run go UAE. We go remove, according to demo, go remove the traveling ban because in the feel say the more in they travel, they go they meet all this international body. In go they do the things where they impress Nigerians. But we eseno balue or wait till that one mean be say say if something they scratch you for your nyash, the thing go they scratch you, go they sweet you. But if you don't stop to the scratch, it go they pain you. Now that kind good. Now we they see and say Tinubu they do because if they do the thing, we they see and say they do the thing. But we know in the thing where they do not get effect, palliative, not get head. Everybody they fight. So many videos for social media where put the fight over food. The student law we say put or mama not get head. Everything just they do so many things at the same time. but yet it's like he's not doing anything. So that now they call Eseno Balue. Good way they do. We be say you go they scratch your yansh, you go they sweet you. If you come out and you come they pin you. This woman, what they call Onochi. I don't know if she be, but the intention where she gets egba, go complete in Jesus' name. He don't demand say make police arrest Peter Obi. Hey, make a arrest Peter Obi unto which matter say because say na man we come third and he want declare himself as winner at all costs. Why you not talk say me the arrest article? Why must it be Obi? Because una say and say Obi is a threat to you people. Una go gather against this man. That una gather it go dissolve. See, make una come in one way. In 7 ways, una go disappear. Nothing go happen to Obi. Nigerian put chairs for front. Nothing go happen. Una plan, all the money una chop, una go vomit am. Obi go nowhere. They nobody go, no DSS they arrest Obi at all. As this one constantly bolofua, o come dey hear say APC don't vow to get Nigerians arrested. Hey, if they protest, disrupt President Tinubu's outing at the UN Assembly in New York. News they reach us now. Say something they happen for Chicago as they talk right now. Say the courts don't gather against Tinubu head. Say they no fit identify the certificate where Bola Ahmed Tinubu presents. Say na inte go school for Chicago University. As they talk right now, even a lawyer they say no concord. In fact, the judge convo talk say the verdict wey the tribunal give say Tinubu certificate wey he bring wey they no fit identify is enough to disqualify him. Our people talk and say isan swisan wonisan. Wetin this one mean be say na shit na push shit come out for inside yansh. I beg oga, the people wey you use wey they take protest for the day where they give you judgment say now you be president, I bet they don't cry come and me go pay them. Oh, they don't work for you, they don't carry placards come and say they support you on that day. Send who you send, make you go give them their money. They don't label. My people, this video they very very well packaged. In fact, the man wey come out with us saying tribalism and religion now he be say they not like Tinubu. If you not see wetin this man tell them, oh, in fact the thing is sweet me. Una no need to miss this video at all. If I never watched anything for my channel before, I beg you watch all this video from the beginning to the end. Area I greet to Nana too much. I lower, I prostrate, finish. In fact, anybody with a sick una down for that person already done already. Area all caressas. Una too much. Now thank you for loving and for sharing and for liking every video I drop. Thank you.
But let's get to the meat and potatoes of our interview. Clearly, Rome wasn't built in a day, so fixing Nigeria is going to take a while. But the president's supporters say he's off to a good start, citing his recent achievements with investors in India, sideline meetings with the world's top leaders at the G20 summit, and the lifting of a visa ban imposed on Nigerians by the UAE, amongst many other things. I mean, surely that's all good news for Nigerians, but you say it's all a big spin. Tell us why you think so.
Well, it would have been a good news if, for example, it is true. Unfortunately, it is not. It is said that we campaign in poetry, but we govern in prose. But it appears that they are still governing in poetry. You see, the 100 days of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been uneventful, in my opinion. And like I said, I wish him well, but the pledge in Nigeria is, as I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest. We have to be honest, with ourselves and honest to our leaders. And that is patriotic action, so that our leaders will learn from our opinions on the way they are governing us. Now, what they have termed as achievement, quite frankly, can be seen by all as just exaggeration, over-exaggeration of their perception of what they call the achievement. Because in the last 100 years, if you ask a Nigerian, they will tell you that nothing has significantly changed in their lives. And you can look at every fabrics of our society, our lives, If you look at education, there is nothing that has happened in the education sector. If you look at labor, for example, they are still having back and forth, try to negotiate basic salary and working conditions with ASU and other trade unions. If you look at healthcare, there is nothing that has happened, as a matter of fact. So they have now, because domestically there is nothing to show as a progressive result of what they are doing, they have decided to embark on foreign trips, in other words, diplomacy, to see if they can curry the Pharaoh's favor and accolades. You see, there are two things I want to mention. The first one was the trip to India. And with the greatest respect, what I said can be verified. The trip to India was basically a global picnic. The G20 usually is like a global picnic where G20 members come and deliberate on world issues. But if it is successful, there will be a joint statement stating exactly what they intend to do, what they have agreed on. Because of the absence of China and Russia, they haven't been able to come up with any clear-cut direction on what to do. That's why the joint statement has been criticized by global businessmen. He took along with him Nigerian investors or businessmen. And from the report, and only one source will get the report, which is the media aid to the president, is that they secured victory, they secured promises, they secured billions, and they're just exaggerating and mentioning monies that could not be verified either by the investors themselves, either through a joint statement, through their website, or through their personal social media handle. And it's just like when I come to do business with you and you say, I want to do this. But the intriguing fact about the investors is that they saw the domestic investors that were carried along to India. And they will be wondering, because investors are not like people who walk on the street. What they are advised before investing. They would have seen Nigerian businessmen that accompanied the president. And if you look around and study in the past 4 or 5 years, they have encountered their own losses. I remember not long ago, I saw an article by Atedola that he nearly committed suicide because of the losses he incurred. Dangote, and then you find a lot of them. And the Indian investors will be wondering that if you want me to invest in your country, there should be evidence that those who are already investing in the country are succeeding. Unfortunately, the foreign policy objective of this government is misapplied. It is mixed. I don't know the better word to use, but to me, it does not carry any meaning. And then the suitors will be attracted. But when you carry your daughter to a picnic and she look unkept, she look hungry, she look disjointed, deplorable condition and despondent, there is no way you can attract the investors. Short of the long story with India is that everything they said they secured as investment plan or promises could only be established by themselves. There is no one word from any investor in India that they have actually committed to such. Then they took the trip again to Dubai. It is in Dubai that we saw the object of caricature. Because all you need to do is to look at the statement issued by the media aid to the president, and you will tell yourself that this is an announcement specifically and in a clear terms that they have lifted certain restrictions with respect to travel to the people of Armenia. If such existed in the meeting yesterday, it would have been published in the website. Some international news media felt even embarrassed because the media aid blasted the news across all platforms around the world. And they reported, when you check Bloomberg and CNN and all other news outlets, you will see that their source is only one, unverified. Later in the evening, the media aid went to a TV station and tried to walk back by saying that, well, it is not immediate, they are going to fine-tune the details. The details which he said they stayed back to fine-tune, after the meeting they started, moving their way.
Right. Well, Daniela, I'm just going to come in there.
That is not the way to govern.
Right. I'm just going to come in there because you've made a lot of very illuminating points there. First of all, let me just take, and I'm not a spokesman for the government, obviously, but they're not here to defend themselves. So I'm just going to take the first thing, one of the things that you talked about, which is Dangote and the other people who accompanied the president as sort of big business people and investors in Nigeria, ostensibly to go abroad and help convince other business people that it's worth investing in Nigeria. I mean, you may have a point in saying that it's not all shipshape and seaworthy, but I mean, Dangote is the richest man in Africa. He's been that consistently, and most of his wealth has come from what he's been doing in Nigeria. So there's an argument to be made for that, as well as some of the other people who run some of the biggest companies that go beyond Nigeria across the rest of Africa. And also on the issue of visas, I mean, everybody reported it, and you're right in saying that the source was always the president's spokesman, that, you know, that's where it came from, and from no one else, including the BBC and all the rest of them. But the fact remains, and I haven't seen the website that you're talking about. You may well have a plausible point there, but the fact remains that those, usually in these circumstances, it is always a first step, and one side in those negotiations tend to be given the chance. I mean, often you see it with the US and some other people. Somebody else is given that opportunity to make the announcement because they want to get publicity, some kind of publicity capital from it. Now, I'm not disputing, I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. I'm simply saying that in the context of international relations, that is the way things tend to happen. But let me turn to another point that you mentioned in your very interesting tweet earlier, which is the picture of Mr. Tinubu that they released, that you said was about meeting Mr. Biden. But according to you, beyond that handshake that we saw, there was no sideline meeting. Would you care to sort of enlighten us more?
Right, I will do that, but permit me to clear one point that you mentioned. You see, when there is a meeting of two countries or two counterparts, once the resolution is done, usually there is a joint statement. In the event there is no joint statement and there's going to be individual statement, there will be corroborative statement. It means the government of Nigeria will be able to address the press there about what they agreed on, and then the government of the United Arab Emirates will confirm either directly or separately. But as it stands today, it is only Nigeria's version. There is no word from the United Arab Emirates that corroborated that point, other than the fact that they have agreed to deepen ties to look at issues that that's of common interest. You're asking them to come and invest in Nigeria when they can't even recoup the one they've invested through their airline. That's one. With respect to it applies to India. With respect to the businessmen, I talk about fact-based information. Over the last 8 years of APC administration, you can check it, or anybody listening tonight can check. Dangote has lost not less than $5 billion. And you can run that through all the businessmen in Nigeria. Well, they will try to say pandemic, whatever, they will give excuse. But Nigerian investors, domestic investors, even with all the leverages they get in terms of tax holidays, still they have not been able to break the jinx because our local laws, the private sector has not been given the thriving environment. And so what it means is that the president should stay and develop the house, and then investors will find it attractive. So I'm saying that I will give you an instance of the point I'm trying to buttress. You have Rishi Sunak was in India. He was billed to meet Prime Minister Modi, but because that day was arranged for Modi to meet with Joe Biden, even though he made effort to meet the man, he could not. He had to meet him the next day. That's diplomatic protocol. And as far as we know, there was no plan for President Biden to meet with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the G20. So when they met, they shook hands. It was just the shaking of hands after they visited one of the Hindu sites or whatever. So there was no site. The point I'm trying to make is that the media machine of the president is projecting itself as awful and even worse than the previous administration. Because in the previous administration, they will give the information as it were, but they are not forceful in making the argument. In this one, they are forceful in the communication of misinformation, forceful in their misleading of the Nigerian people. And you often hear them say, we try as much as possible to be honest with Nigeria. It's not a big deal to meet this president, but don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Don't make it seem like photo ops and shaking of hands will amount to foreign investments as they are trying to project. By next week, when the president of Nigeria will meet President Biden based on protocol, that is when you can talk about sidelines. In fact, I told myself, if the G20 meeting and the Dubai, they try to make a whole caricature of our territorial integrity, by next week when they will meet with a lot of presidents, either in hallways, see not photo ops and statements. There are no specificity, there are no deliverables, and there are no timelines. So this is the point we're trying to say. Focus on insecurity in the country. Okay, look at the National Security Advisor. He's like an elder brother or uncle to me. National Security Advisor is in every meeting of this government, political meeting, meetings that have nothing to do with national security.
Well,
Now,
you make some really good points. Right. You make some very interesting points, Daniel. I suppose time will tell. We'll have to wait and see whether all the investment pledges that they talked about, because I mean, obviously when it's a pledge, it means that somebody pledges to invest in your country contingent on certain other things that if you do them, we will then invest. I mean, but we'll have to wait and see. But listening to you talk, I mean, you're obviously, as always, a very articulate person. I'm wondering if the leaders of the PDP should perhaps now stop in their tracks and turn their public service focus away from all the legal protests to the role of the official opposition, which is what you're doing, which is to question and scrutinize the work of the government, sort of like what you're doing, as I said in the program today. I mean, would that be the best way to be a safeguard against the excesses of empowered Nigerian politicians?
Oh, yeah, first of all, as far as the legal framework of the country is concerned, until there is a final determination of the subject of election petition by the Supreme Court, there is nothing you can do to stop the PDP, for example, from challenging that. But that does not mean that because we are in court, we cannot engage the ruling government and provide alternatives. We don't hate them, but that's how democracy works. All of us cannot come and be saying, boy, so ye. Our duty to Nigerians, like I told you about the pledge, is to interrogate the government. Unfortunately, the signs I'm seeing as this government is taking up is going to be worse than the previous administration unless there is a retracing of the step and change your strategy. You must leave propaganda and then work with realities. That's one. Number two, the governing party, they are using every conceivable strategy under the heaven to use certain individuals in PDP and with the hope that they will weaken PDP and probably turn the country into a one-party state. If you have seen, over the last few months, they have instigated and orchestrated the suspension of national chairmen of almost every political party. In fact, recently they even got to sack, can you imagine, the presidential candidate of NNPP. And unfortunately, we have in our party an individual who believes he's God. And he is romancing with them and presenting himself as a worthy candidate that can be used to destroy PDP so they can have a one-party state. Unfortunately, when PDP was being formed, he was nowhere near the ideology of the party. So PDP will survive, PDP will thrive, and PDP will remodel this country in no distant time. We need a country that works. We want a country that works. We don't want to build a country on propaganda and rhetorics. There are fundamental things confronting us as a country. They have been domesticated into the various manifestos during the campaign. They've thrown away the manifesto. We need you to begin to implement the manifesto so we can interrogate you and say, okay, this is, for example, when they remove fuel subsidy, we told them we all agreed that subsidy will be removed, but in our own plan, we said it should be in phases and that you will do it in such a manner that the impact on the masses will not be much. In their own case, it was just one statement like that. They removed it. How much is $1 to a naira? How much is pound to a naira? Do you know any parent that paid the school fees of their children in all foreign schools this year, they paid twice the value, not occasioned by the foreign schools, but by the incoherent policies of the government. So if, for example, the pound sterling was 21,000 pounds, as at the time that student registered last year, because last year the forex policy is that students can access the pounds at a certain amount, which is about 500 and something. Now the person is required to pay over 220%, just that kind of policy that can throw people into derision. What do we talk about? Investors? Look at what when they gave out the 5 billion to states and they say it's palliative. They just turned the country into internally displaced, places, like refugee camp. Have you seen the footage of how these palliatives have been delivered? The dignity of the human person has been thrown. We are not even talking about whether it is actually delivered to the people and how many of them. So,
well, some would
your manifesto, so we can challenge you on that.
Right. Well,
but
some
it seems now it is just as the spirit leads.
Right. I mean, I'm not in any way, as I said, holding forth for the APC, but some would question whether the PDP was any different during its years in office. But what I'd like to ask you, though, Daniel, is, I mean, you talked about the fact that a leading member of the PDP is now essentially in bed with the APC on a ministerial level. I mean, I wonder what the mood is inside the PDP today. I understand you're marking 25 years. I mean, you've got one of your leading members, Nyesom Wike, now openly working for the APC government, and I imagine that the ruling by the Presidential Election Tribunal must have recreated that sort of vast sense of loss and effusive despair that the PDP first experienced when INEC announced the winner of the election earlier this year.
No, the judgment of the court has even created more questions than answers. For example, after the judgment, now the natives of the FCT are planning to approach the court. Since the court of law, the election petition court, said Abuja is just like every other state, the native now say, okay, we want to approach the court and get an order of court mandating federal government to let us have our governor and 3 senators without prejudice to other peculiarities that is associated with state. And they are now saying they are even going to seek for an order restraining the FCT minister from parading himself as FCT minister pending the determination of the suit. There are so many other areas that this judgment has created. So now you need virtually on every part of the Constitution, you need to go to court to get interpretation, because it seems we're getting into a new legal order in that regard. Now, but the person, if he feels emboldened, for example, by that judgment, one fact I have to make clear is that the party has survived a lot of hurdles, and the party will survive him. And very soon, he's going to be expelled from the party because he has violated the provisions of the party's constitution that will warrant his expulsion. It's just that the party is taking its time and taking it gently. Recently, he even got the audacity to say he wants to suspend the presidential candidate of the party. When Atiku Abubakar with the founding fathers sat and they were forming this party, where was he? He was working in National Union Road Transport or something in Port Harcourt under Azubike Meremi. And then you want to now challenge somebody who is like one of the bastions of democracy in the country. The living politicians today in Nigeria that can beat their chest with living credentials are people like Atiku. Then you can talk about President Tinubu, people who work for democracy. This young man came into government in 1998, became a beneficiary. Everything he has, everything he acquired, and everything he is, it is the party. He owes the party gratitude and not this kind of attitude that he is given. To him, Benjamin Franklin is everything. Or to him, he has the power. Now he's FCT minister. He can exercise this power against the party. One fact is clear. Even the president of Nigeria cannot destroy PDP. Not to talk of a civilian who is in FCT minister thinking in his mind that he's going to destroy the party so we can have a one-party state. No, Tinubu does not support that. And let me tell you this. If Atiku picks his phone and calls President Tinubu and demand that Wike be sacked, Wike will be sacked before they will finish talking on the phone. That is the extent to which President Tinubu values and respects Atiku. So what he is doing in the FCT and all this melodramatic and emotional exegesis, he's only dancing before he will be fired in the FCT. And he will not in any way affect the party. I give that word and you can look at it. Most of the people, you see, there is this thing called blackmail. And he has done that in the past. Where anybody who goes against him, he will call for a world press conference and he will say, I gave him this, I made him this, I gave him this. There are lots of them he chased out of the party. I remember he once boasted that Dave Umahi, when he left, that look at him, am I not the one that got judgment for him? He let him interpret to Nigeria what he meant by I got judgment for him.
Yeah, let me come in there because we're fast running out of time. Let me come in there and I need to ask you a couple of other things. I mean, just listening to you talk, and as very passionate as always, and you know, this being a kind of internecine tiff within the PDP that's being played out in public, it just gives the impression that the opposition is frankly looking a bit frayed at the edges. But you also talked about the fact that you're clearly going to the Supreme Court. I mean, you're a lawyer, Daniel, and a lawyer of some repute. What is the most important weapon that you would say the PDP have in their armory going to the Supreme Court?
Well, I don't want to preempt what the legal team will do at the Supreme Court. I deliberately refuse to offer my opinion on the judgment of the court to many television stations within the country and outside of the country the day the judgment was delivered. It is deliberate because I want to read the judgment myself in detail and appreciate the reasoning of the court so I can offer my opinion. And I have to say that the judgment of court is binding on all authorities in the Federation. But the bindingness of the judgment of the court does not take away the constitutional right of Nigerians to give their opinion as to whether they agree with the judgment or not. I happen to disagree with the reasoning of their lordships. And I will only tell you one tonight, which is Section 134 sub 2, the requirement of 25% within the FCT. And in every ramification, you can look at that. If you say that FCT is just like any other state, that means just like does not mean it is. That's number one. But let's even push it further to say you meant it is like all the other states. What are the characteristics and the peculiarities of a state within the framework of our constitution? A state has an elective executive officer called the governor. FCT does not have. A state has National Assembly people as required by constitution, 3 senators, and then the House of Rep as determined by the delineation population and all of that. FCT does not have the same proportion, even though FCT is even larger than, Bayelsa. And then 3, the Constitution of Nigeria in Section 299 says it is the President and National Assembly that administer the FCT. A state is not administered by the President and National Assembly. We can go on and on and on to suggest to you that FCT constitutionally was designed to have specific and special role so that whoever will become president must have popularity in the seat of power. But the court thought otherwise. But we have judgment of the Supreme Court in the past that made clear as regarding the requirement. So it is good that it will be tested at the Supreme Court, because the court that delivered the judgment right now is not the final court. And so judgment is not a final judgment until it is determined by the final court.
We have Justice Stephen Ada, Justice Haruna Samani, Justice Mohammed Bello. But there is that observation that there is no justice from the Southeast, and that considering the magnitude and importance of the case that they had to dispense with, the presidential election petition, how important was it for the 5-man panel to have included a justice from the Southeast? They even cite that in the U.S. Supreme Court, there is also that agitation for the inclusion of a black judge. So in this case now, how important was it? Did we miss something important with the absence of a justice from the Southeast in that panel?
Maybe we missed 2 things: the optics of it, how it looks, and the perception of the inclusivity. Beyond that, it would not be entirely fair to suggest that the absence of somebody from a particular part of the country necessarily brings into disrepute any decision arising from the team setup. That's in principle and speaking objectively. Speaking in purely political terms and within our context, which is Nigeria, the perception is that it would have been better, more reassuring, so that it won't look like their brother P2B was taken to a foreign abattoir, brought before foreign butchers and slaughtered by foreign butchers. That's actually, that's where the challenge of perception is. So I think they could have done a little better in terms of the optics of it. It would have had a better effect on public consciousness. But then, let's also push it further, since you're talking about the Southeast. We are familiar with this treatment of the Southeast. You look at the entire 8 years of Buhari's government. Where was the Southeast? Where was it? not anywhere. If it existed, it must be on paper. The only appointments we could remember was, I think, Ngige. I don't remember who else. Ngige, of course, is easy to remember because he's spent and Oboneono, yes. Oboneono, it's only now that I'm remembering he was a minister.
What about the Minister of State for Education?
Let's not go there. So, Ngige, I could easily remember because, I mean, for the 8 years, he was quarreling with people, so it was easy to remember him. And now that's all the Southeast got under Buhari. You look at the appointments of service chiefs, etc. So this is not new. This is what is happening all the time. And if you look at the current configuration, I think Southeast has 8 slots, where others, Northeast and the rest have 10. That subsists. So I believe the government should work on the optics, how things appear when we do them. But to move from there and claim that because there's nobody from the Southeast, the panel is therefore imperiled or brought into disrepute, I do not agree.
So, Prof, what about, I mean, when you say that, I mean, when they read the materials brought who were not tagged, and I'm just wondering, because, I mean, for media folks, if they want to tag them, quote unquote, depends on what they mean by tagging in courts, because it's not layman's English, probably. And if they do that and give it all those captioning, wouldn't they then subsequently argue in court, say, my lord, these materials have been tampered with, this is not how it was originally? Won't that come up at some point?
Tagging is different from tampering. If you're traveling and you bring your box, they weigh it, they confirm the weight, then they get a piece of that material, put the weight, and tag the box. Now, that doesn't interfere with the content, it doesn't interfere with the lock, it doesn't interfere with the integrity of the box in a way. It's an external attachment.
That's why it's hard for people to believe that these senior lawyers didn't tag these materials.
No. What for me is even more disturbing was after the experience of 2019, that this could happen. You see, this happens when also, that's why when you're very high up there in a profession, you must have assistants whose feet are squarely on the ground. Most of the time, you have a lot of excitement on the strength of evidence, but they are anecdotal evidence. You saw, for instance, the video of Oluomo. Somebody said to be Oluomo. That man never denied that he was the one in that video. So to the extent that there has been no rejection or denial or contestation of that, that's the man. And other people who are stopping people from voting. Now, as those making the case against Tinubu are watching those things, they are very excited. This shows the election was rigged, but they forget they are talking in somebody's parlor. This is not before the court. So one thing that the opposition, particularly Labour Party and Obedience, need to learn is that there is a sphere of engagement. This thing from a sphere of contemplation and appreciation. You can try out all your wrestling skills in your compound, but the village square is where it takes place.
Just if I may bring this up here, Prof. I want to add it to what you're saying, Prof. Are you implying that almost over 300 years of experience combined in that court could have missed out that kind of angle?
No. It will not be fair because these lawyers were prepared. They were banking, I believe, on the fact that the appeal court already had a subsisting decision that admitted a kind of circumstance that affected the 10 witnesses. They were shocked to discover that the court did not follow its own precedent. So I believe they relied more on the substance of the case. But on the issue you're raising, yes, it will be shocking, especially seeing what PDP did last year in 2019, brought a lot of materials they were going to. I told the guys I was talking with, any material in court without a custodian in whom it inheres has no legal validity.
Thanks a lot, George. I've been a regular viewer of your show for many years. I just wanted to say,
thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, with regards to Nigeria, we need to be quite careful about it, because yeah, indeed, there were some discrepancies in the last election, but it's not enough to say who won or who did not win. I would just like to say, opposition to the current president has led to a lot of spike of violence against his ethnic group, the Yoruba people. And this is where we need to be careful as to how people frame the problems they have with the president. because at the moment, if care is not taken, the way a lot of independent journalists, so to say, are framing these things up, it might lead to another brutal ethnic clash. And as you know, my country experienced the civil war in 1967 between the then breakaway Biafra region and the rest of the country. I'm afraid we might be heading in that direction again. So I would like you to please take a step back and actually review the dynamics to the last election. Because we can't say for sure that Peter Obi won that election. A lot of, we do vote on the basis of religion and ethnicity, but most Nigerians are Muslims, and we voted for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Whatever problems people have with him is fair, but is the person most of us voted for. And I think the more people are going after him on a personal level as against going for INEC, which is the body responsible for elections, civilians from my ethnic group are being targeted. And I just called because I've seen a lot of conversations surrounding him, and I want you to be aware of the risk he poses on the ground. Thank you.
Well, look, there's no question of me taking a step back. I'm merely hosting a show in which all kinds of people are invited. Every 5 minutes, I invite everyone to call the show to give their point of view. And you just have, very succinctly indeed, you have taught me something. I had absolutely no idea that Tinubu was from the Yoruba people. That's the only good thing about him. And my contempt for him has zero to do with the fact that he's a Muslim and zero to do with the fact that he comes from the Yoruba people. These two things are the only two good things about him. I'm against him because he's a crook. I'm against him because he's a thief. I'm against him because he's a bagman for the bigger thieves. In Chicago, Illinois, I'm against him because he forged his election papers. I'm against him because INEC forged his victory in the election. Am I supposed to turn a blind eye to all these things? Because he's a Muslim, because he's a Yoruba, because this may lead to ill feeling to his people? When I express my contempt for Rishi Sunak, I'm not hating on Indian Hindus. I'm hating on Rishi Sunak for everything except the fact that he's an Indian Hindu. I parked that. I have no interest in that. I'm against Sunak for a whole range of other reasons. I'm against Tinubu for a whole range of other issues. Now, I invite all points of view to enter this debate over Nigeria. If we had a Moats Africa, we could do it exclusively every week on that show tailor-made for the African audience. But we don't have that, so we can't talk about Nigeria every single week, every single show. But we had David on in advance of the court decision. We've now had him on after the court decision, which I followed closely, and which was every bit as farcical as David Hundian described it. What are we supposed to do? Not do so? Accept that the greatest African country is run by a crook? A forger? No, I will never accept that. I have too much respect for all the peoples of Nigeria.
This is Bod TV Bod. In case the first time you come here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more uploads.